Hey guys, T2RX6 here, back for another Transformers review. Well, sort of. Remember these, well, I guess they're still out there, these Marvel crossover Transformers? Ones that people like to complain about just because they're not really Transformers, they've got humanoid faces, and they don't think they're very successful. Well, I'd like to argue with anyone who has that opinion of these things, because they're really not that bad. They do pull off two fairly convincing modes. The alt modes usually look pretty good, and the robot mode is pretty, convincing as a mech. Now, why most of these Marvel characters would need these types of things are beyond me. But that's not what I'm here to argue today. What I'm here to show you is something that's far, far, far worse. Remember Toy Biz and how they used to make all those X-Men toys and pretty much all the superhero toys? Well, remember when they tried their hand at some Transformers? Well, this is Shapeshifter's Juggernaut, and he's just that. He is a Transformer. I use that term loosely though, because it takes some imagination to really appreciate this guy. Now, right now, I do have him quote-unquote mistransformed into his human mode, and this is because his face just makes me laugh every time I see it. So you can actually, by the tank turret here, let me adjust this camera just a little. Using the tank turret, slides his face forward and back for transformation. Well, I like to keep his face hidden for now, because the laugh factor is just so great. And it's an interesting gimmick that he can be real mad. Are you ready? Look at that face. It looks like he's constipated or something, I don't know. That is a horrible looking Juggernaut face. So, there we go, there's Juggernaut. And really, in his human mode, he's not too bad. He's got a little bit of shoulder articulation. It can go around 360. He's got an elbow swivel. He's got a wrist on a quite obvious ball joint. And I like this Juggernaut because of his huge, huge, huge fists. Very much that Marvel vs. Capcom huge fist Juggernaut, look. His legs here, they're very awkwardly positioned where the ball joint for it is down here. So when he's doing, that's, oh man. This guy pops his knee out, or his leg out of place every time he's trying to run. So, can't really display him like that. You kinda just have to put him like this. Knee, he does have a knee articulation, except you're supposed to peg in the tank tread here. And so, if you remove that pegging of the tank tread, you do get some knee, which can go that far back, but if you want to keep the tank treads at least a little bit hidden behind him, it can hinder how far his knee can go back. These are on like 3mm clip weapons though. Essentially the same thing. I don't know if they're exactly 3mm, but you can use it like that and take it off if you so please. But now he has a weird chunk of plastic here on the back. For size comparison purposes, here he is next to the Marvel Universe Apocalypse, just to give you a feel of the size. And here is a G.I. Joe, so 3 3/4 inch scaled to a 3 3/4 inch line. Juggernaut. So let's go ahead and stretch our imagination and try to transform this guy. Now, I had no instructions when I got this guy, and everything I figured out was all by looking at the pictures on the back of his card that I could find online. There's probably pretty obvious reasons why nobody gets this guy. So, first we'll start by pulling out his little feet tank treads, and then we'll rotate his feet down, and this piece here has to slide out with it, just enough, otherwise his feet won't be completely flat, so you gotta make sure they're flat, and that piece folds out. Now, we'll come back here, and we'll do these other tank treads just by flipping them around, and flip it around again. And then what you want to do is kind of lift his head up here, and this whole piece here, my fingers can get it. There we go. Gonna pop off like that, and you'll flip that around. Now, one interesting piece of the transformation here is you actually do take his legs and you slide on, there's a track inside there, and you kind of pull him out and slide it down. And make sure you have him in the right position. So I'll show you this again over here. Take this, pull it out, slide it down on the track. And there you go. Now you got the bottom of what is going to be. Well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm sure you can figure it out at this point, unless I already did, which is possible. So now you're going to take the torso area here, and you can see that there's a slide there. Just slide it all the way forward, and then just kind of bring this down like that. And then you can take his arms here and kind of fold this all down like that, and then flip open this little piece here, and it'll plug into the little peg that's sticking out there. And what you're gonna do is take his fist, swivel it so the spikes are straight up, which makes no sense because it should be better that way, but the instructions are like that. And then push this ball joint in, and what's actually, I'll show you here, there's actually the ball joint socket here, and then I'm not sure if we can see this. Alright, so I got a little light here because you can't see this, but when you're transforming the arm, you've got the ball joint socket here, and then, let's see, can I get it in there? You got another hole at the bottom to push it on in. So that's how that two-stage transformation works. So you're essentially, when you're pulling it out, you're pretty much disassembling the figure, and when you're pushing it in, you're pushing it further than it's supposed to go. But hey, that's how you get the arms to line up like that. So do the same thing for this other side, where you take his arms, fold it down, fold this piece over so it plugs on in, and then you're going to take the pegs that are on this hand, and you'll see the hole on his chest, basically. And you just kind of plug it in like that on each side, and that shores this guy up a little bit. And so now the final thing to do is to take Juggernaut, spin his head around. Oops, lost this peg there. Spin it around, and all this should, there's a hole here and the little peg here. Once you have it in the right spot, it should clip down, and then pull out the turret. And if we plug everything back in, as you can see, it doesn't really hold together very well. Of course, it doesn't really look like a tank either. So, yeah, this is a tank. It's a tank that kind of looks like a midget Juggernaut flexing. In fact, we can bring his face, and now he really looks like a midget Juggernaut flexing. Yeah, this thing's pretty ugly. And I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but this is as far as I could tell from the pictures. There was a missile missing from this Juggernaut when I found him online, but that's okay. So this guy doesn't really roll because there's no wheels. Any rolling is just me sliding him across the table. The turret doesn't turn. You can turn it, but then it pops off and it's always looking up. There's no up and down either, aside from the fact that it can wiggle in the assembly. And frankly, it just doesn't look like a tank. It's the worst tank I've ever seen. Yeah. So, when we look at something like the crossovers, the ones actually done by Hasbro, you can see you have a much more convincing set of modes. This guy's not too bad in his, human mode, but as a vehicle, this is just awful looking. And the Marvel versions, or the Hasbro versions, are not nearly as bad. I got this guy for $6 or $7, I can't remember total, off eBay, and I found it with a tag of just like Transformers parts or something like that, and ended up finding this guy. And I figured I took a chance. I thought he was going to be missing parts from a couple pictures I saw of him, which none of the pictures online include this tank mode, only the shots of the product card that people have. $6 or $7 is about all I'm willing to pay for something like this. Like, it's really worth it for the laugh of just how bad it really is. But as a toy, it's awful. And, there's one on eBay right now, as of whatever today is, February 9th, I believe, 10th, I don't know. But whatever day today is, there's one online, and the guy wants $60 for it. Now granted, it has the card and it has the missile, but this thing's a piece of junk, guys. Don't pay $60 for it. I mean, you've essentially got Juggernaut doing some kind of crazy yoga with roller skates on his butt and his feet, and that's a tank. It's pretty bad. So, this is T2RX6. I hope you enjoyed the review, and now possibly don't think that the Marvel crossovers, I'm not defending the Star Wars, at least for their bot mode, aren't so bad. So, until next time, guys, I'll see you later.